Well, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy leading a congressional delegation of 4 to the southern border in Arizona yesterday, representing the Grand Canyon State, Oregon, Virginia, and Wisconsin. Now, it actually marks McCarthy's 4th visit to the border under President Biden and his first as Speaker of the House. Former Speaker Newt Gingrich paying close attention, saying the visit highlights the ongoing crisis created by the Biden administration. A fair point, considering Kamala Harris landed in Germany yesterday. Our border czar traveling to Deutschland as many times as she has the border. The White House calling McCarthy's trip a publicity stunt following a notable State of the Union with the GOP heckling Biden's border policy. McCarthy defending himself that this was definitely not a photo op. Well, since President Biden took office, enough fentanyl has been seized at the border to kill every American 23 times, saying every city is now a border city. Now, the 4 freshmen reacted. Oregon's Laura Chavez-DeMere saying it was critical to see the problems for themselves. If we want to solve this crisis, we have to start at the beginning. Then Arizona's Juan Ciscomani also focused on fentanyl and said he was grateful to the brave men and women who face these challenges in his state daily. Then Virginia's Jen Kiggins adding, "What I saw was unbelievable. Our national security and our families are at risk. We have to restore the rule of law and support the law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line to defend and maintain our borders." Quite a monumental visit for these 4 freshmen and the House Speaker, wrapped up nicely by Wisconsin's Derek Van Orden.
I'm calling on the Biden administration today. Secretary Mayorkas, do your damn job. Enough is enough.
Yeah, Rob, Allison.
Thank you for that. I want to keep the focus on the southern border now. Joining us for more, Staff Lieutenant for the Texas Highway Patrol, Christopher Olivarez, back with us. Lieutenant, great to see you this morning. So Kevin McCarthy taking aim at Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas with this latest visit, raising eyebrows as impeachment discussions loom. Take a listen.
This has got to stop. And it starts with the Secretary of Homeland. Stop lying to the American public. Tell them the truth, what's happening, and change back the regulation that we had before so our border can be secure.
All right, so, Lieutenant, Republicans have now held hearings. They've made several visits. McCarthy's been there 4 times. Does it seem like anything is changing where you are?
Well, Rob, Allison, good morning. Thanks for having me on. So, I mean, I can tell you right now, Rob, nothing really has changed as much as far as we've seen a slight decrease in the large number of people that were coming across, the large groups where you would see several hundred come across all at once. But you look in terms of the overall numbers themselves, for January, over 156,000 encounters. Now, we really can't compare January's numbers to December, where, of course, December was an all-time high with over 250,000 encounters. But if you look at the previous fiscal years, 21 and 22, we're still surpassing those numbers by far. So nothing has slowed down. The numbers continue to increase as far as what we're seeing. The gotaways, the drugs. We're seeing an increase in Chinese nationals, especially in the Rio Grande Valley, which is something that we haven't seen before, as much, where we only saw maybe a couple hundred in the prior year, and now we're up to almost 2,000 right now since October 1st. So when we look at what's happening along the border, there needs to be some change. There needs to be some action. It needs to be done right now. There's a lot of talk, a lot of conversation, a lot of strategies, but nothing's been put in place to actually stem this flow of mass migration that we're seeing and the drugs that are coming across our border. But most importantly, also targeting transnational criminal organizations. The focus needs to be on fentanyl. And we have Americans that are dying every single day, and yet nothing's being done or nothing's being talked about as far as going after these organizations and trying to dismantle these chemical labs that are not only operating in Mexico, but also in the U.S. We just dismantled a U.S. lab a couple of weeks ago in Houston, Texas, where you had U.S. citizens that were actually operating and making a fentanyl lab. They had over 17 pounds of chemical precursors that were directly shipped from China. That is a serious problem, and something needs to be done about it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I just read that there was a New York police officer who almost overdosed on fentanyl because it was on the street. So this is happening all over the place, not just near the southern border. Right. Lieutenant, you mentioned there was a slight decrease in numbers. That was the January numbers. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, typically around this time, January, February, they've always been slow. If you look at when this border crisis first started, I mean, the numbers were just a little over 100,000 when we started back in 21 and even 22. But that's still not that's unacceptable to have over 100,000 encounters. That's nothing, normal to see that type of mass migration taking place. So I think that's what we're seeing. But I do anticipate the numbers are going to increase, especially going into the spring and the summer, where we actually see those increased numbers. So nothing to slow down. We're still seeing an increase in human smuggling. A lot of juveniles that are taking part in human smuggling cases. We had a case most recently, a 15-year-old from Mexico, an illegal immigrant that was smuggling people. So the organizations in Mexico are using different tactics as far as to get drugs across, to get people across. They're targeting juveniles now. Of course, they've been doing that with social media platforms. But this situation has not slowed down. I mean, it's changed, based on the months, but It's going to continue to increase. And it's going to get much worse. That's why there needs to be some more pressure on the federal government to take action.
And we've talked about this. So fine, January, the numbers were down, quote unquote, to 150,000 illegal crossings. Donald Trump's last full month in office, December 2020, the number was right around 40,000. We've never seen numbers as high as we're seeing right now at the southern border. Lieutenant, you're in Texas, one of the busiest regions on the planet right now for illegal crossings. You've seen more crossings, illegal crossings, than any other place on the planet over the last 2 years under Joe Biden. Let me ask you, how is morale where you are?
Well, I can tell you morale for us on the state side, because obviously we don't work under the federal government. We have great support from the governor, from our Texas legislators, everyone involved. So our men and women of Texas DPS, we're highly supported. The morale is high. We have dedicated men and women that are out there doing their job. But we look at Border Patrol, obviously they're under the federal government. They're not getting the support they need from the top. And also from the secretary, who consistently lies about what's taking place on the border. I mean, you cannot tell the American people that you have operational control and the border secured. When we see the visuals, we see everything that's taking place, the drugs that are coming across the border, drugs that are making past the ports of entry. There has to be some type of explanation for that. So the men and women of Border Patrol, we try to do as much as we can for them to provide that support to them. They're trying to do as much as they can. They want to get up and do the job. They don't want to be constantly processing people that are coming across. They want to protect the country by securing the border and going after these criminals that are bringing these drugs across.
Yeah, and you are seeing it all, Lieutenant Christopher Olivarez. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Christopher.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. And stay with us. Coming up, an immensely valuable Hebrew Bible that's more than 1,000 years old hitting auction in May. Our Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen joins us next with more on why it's so rare and the price someone might pay for it. You're watching Wake Up America, only on Newsmax.